Hey there, so today I am talking to you about hormone imbalance, how to balance your hormones naturally using natural methods. So what I'm talking about is naturopathic medicine, which is herbal medicine, vitamins, diet, that sort of stuff, like how we would approach a hormonal imbalance, what's going on with hormones, why it's happening, what to do, how it all kind of works. So to start with, when it comes to hormones, there's a number of different things that are going on in your body. And there's a few primary things that are driving this problem. So diet is a factor, liver health, gut health are big factors, and pollution is another factor. When I say pollution, I mean like toxins that come in from the environment one way or another. So let's sort of dive into these a little bit just to give you an overview of what's actually happening. So to start with, your hormones are produced by the endocrine glands in your body. So we've got the hypothalamus and pituitary, which is in the brain. These oversee everything, and this feeds down to communicate with like your thyroid and your adrenals, and from there it talks to your pancreas, and then from there it talks to your reproductive system, which is like your ovaries or your gonads, like your sex hormone producing places. So for men it's the testes, for women it's the ovaries. So this is more targeted at women because women tend to have more hormonal problems, as you may have noticed. Men have this very simple system, sort of like one button, women have about 50. And because of this, we are more prone to having problems with our hormones, and life just gets way too complicated for us. We get the short end of the stick as women, I'm sure of it, we did. It's more complicated, and so because there's more moving parts, it's more easy for it to get muddled up. And so let's have a look at what's happening here. So your body needs to make the hormones first of all. So if you've got a problem making hormones, we've got to work out why, right? If the other one is that people either have they don't have enough, so they're having problem making, or the other side is they don't have it, they have too much, so they're making too much, or it may be that they're not actually making too much. It may be that the body's not processing the hormones enough. And generally, this is the problem. This is usually the problem. Unless you're in menopause or unless you've got something going on in your brain, like something sort of more major going on, this is a very general statement, right? But generally, most of the people that come and see me, say for example, PCOS, acne, PMS, polycystic ovaries, endometriosis, adenomyosis, like any of these reproductive problems, then usually we've got too much or a breakdown problem. Sometimes where the fertility issues you're not making enough, but again, usually there's an issue in the breakdown process, and usually there's too much of something in the body. So why is this a thing? So the first thing to know about hormones is chemicals are your biggest disruptor, right? So chemicals and inflammation. So chemicals, I've done videos on chemicals, I've done videos on infections. So go back and have a look at those, but I'll just give a quick overview. Chemicals act like hormones in the body, and particularly they act like estrogen. So most of these conditions actually you have too much estrogen. So if you've got heavy bleeding, extra pain, extra growth of anything in the body, it's usually because you've got too much estrogen. And it may not be because you've got too much of the good estrogen, because this is the thing, you've got 3 types of estrogen. We'll just call them E1, E2, and E3, right? E3 you make a lot when you are pregnant. E1 and more in menopause, and E2 is the one that you use mostly or make mostly when you're like premenopause, like in your reproductive age, right? We can do a test, basically. We can do a test to see what's happening. Are these levels okay? If they are, then the question is why do you have this problem? And most times it is because the pathways in which they get broken down aren't working properly. And this is all to do with the liver. So before I said it's to do with the liver, right? Your liver's job, one of the many jobs your liver has to do, right, is break down hormones. And for hormones to be broken down effectively, it has to go through 2 phases. There's literally 2 phases of your liver. They're called phase 1 and phase 2. Surprise! So phase 1, it'll go in. The hormone will go into phase 1, and then it will get changed into like a different looking molecule. So say the hormone looks like this. It comes into phase 1. It then changes to this shape. and then it needs to go out and into the bowel through phase 2, and then it gets changed into this one, right? So it's going from this to this to this. That's the natural process that should be happening. And people who have like endometriosis, really heavy periods, that sort of stuff, polyps, cysts, even breast cancer, it's staying here. And it's not going into this phase, which means this phase is floating around. Heaps of this is floating around. This type of estrogen floating around, and it's very, very potent and it's very, very strong, and it causes a lot of problems. So this is the phase of estrogen. It's called the intermittent phase. This is the one that drives cancer, it drives estrogen-related issues. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to get this phase working better, to break it down and take it out so it can leave the body. So this is a fundamental process that's dysfunctional in most of these hormonal conditions. Like today, this is just a general overview, right? So that is usually what's going on. And then when your estrogen is too high, whether, just overall, generally too high, you've got too much good or bad, but usually bad, too much bad estrogen in the body, then what happens is your progesterone is too low. Even if your progesterone is good, like even if it's a good, like your good progesterone is right, because you've got so much other estrogen, it's just struggling. It's like, I'm trying to keep up with all this, but there's an imbalance, right? So this is the thing about hormones. There's the good ones, there's the bad ones. We need to understand that. And then there's the balance between the other hormones in the body. So we've got estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, which is a stress hormone. If you're super, super stressed, your body's going to stop making progesterone. Not stop, but reduce the production of progesterone in preference of cortisol. So imagine if you're really, really, really stressed, you've got PCOS, endometriosis, or some sort of condition, right? Your estrogen's high, your progesterone's going to be low because of the estrogen's high, like on a ratio level, and then you get stressed, then your progesterone is even lower, right? Because it's going to make cortisol instead. And then the more stressed you get, the more your hormones get mucked up, right? So this is why I'm always saying, get rid of the coffee. You can't do much often to control your stress with houses and money and family and work and stuff, but you can control what goes in here. And so if you take out the coffee, the caffeine, then at least your stress levels aren't going to be as bad. So that's one thing you can do, like right now after watching this video, you can be like, all right, that's it. I'm going to stop the caffeine, yeah? So these are some of the concepts that you need to understand. So the gut has a major role to play. I'll go into this more around like when I get into conditions, like when I actually talk about endometriosis or PCOS. But basically what happens is there is a system where the estrogen comes out through the liver, right, and it ends up in the gut. Now there's sometimes an enzyme that converts it back into the active one. It's got to go this and then this and then this. What happens is it goes this, and it gets to the gut, and then instead of going out, it goes back to this, and it gets recycled and recycled and recycled, and your poor old liver's like, what? Why are you back again? I've just got rid of you. And then 5 minutes later, I got back. Why are you back again? So it's like redoing the work over and over and over and over again. So that's the gut, one of the gut components. Obviously your diet, stress, all these things majorly factor into this. And the more toxic-y kind of food you eat, like processed, colored, flavored, pesticides, the worse this process gets. Yeah. So that's the chemical component. It's also the stuff you put on your skin. It's what you clean yourself with. It's the air you breathe. It's the water you drink. It's everything. It's not just one day, right? It's your whole life. This stuff has been building up in your life, your whole entire life. And don't forget, you're also born with toxins, right? So your mother, what she had in her body often ends up in the baby. There's epigenetics. So there's genetics also, like there's epigenetics and the actual genetics, the genetics that you got given, and then all the stresses that affect your genes to make them change. That's the epigenetic side, yeah? So we know that if you can have a gene, you don't necessarily have to get the problem if you keep the stresses lower, yeah? So these are things to consider. So what do we do about it, yeah? So we need to obviously work on the liver. First thing, work on the liver, get the diet right, get the stress as low as possible. And then we will start to make sure that we get the right nutrients in. Yeah, so the right B vitamins, the right minerals, other nutrients that your body needs to help break down these hormones. So the specific specialized nutrients that are natural that we use to break down estrogen, to increase progesterone, there's herbs, all of that sort of stuff that we can utilize to help this process. Now you might say, oh, why don't I just go take some hormones? So why don't you do hormone therapy? So I could do another video on this as well, but basically there's two types of hormone therapy. There's bioidentical and there's synthetic. If you're doing bioidentical, you can kind of like mask the symptoms. However, you're not really dealing with the issues. So as soon as you stop them, you come back. Like I had a woman just the other day, went through menopause, went on bioidenticals, comes off, and all the symptoms are back, right? Because she hasn't really addressed the underlying issue. And synthetics are the same sort of deal, except the problem with the synthetics is it's super stressful to the body. So not only are you not dealing with the issue, you're just adding a whole lot of like burden, toxic burden to the liver, because those chemical hormones, let's call them that because that's what they are, the synthetic chemical hormones, they are way stronger than your natural ones, and then they actually multiply the issue even further, so that when you do come off them, not only do you still have the symptoms, they're often worse. And so obviously you can see the compounding effect of that. So we want to ideally, if we can, if you need to do the hormone thing, I get it, like when your hormones are super bad, you want to be able to live. So sometimes what we do is we do the hormone thing and we work on the underlying drivers at the same time, so that when you do come off them, everything's okay. So there's multiple ways to address hormone dysfunction. It's, like I said, it's very complex. But there's some really great tests out there that you can do, naturopathic tests that you can do to help understand this, or help your naturopath at least understand this so they know what to do. Blood testing on its own isn't enough. Although it will give you a little snapshot to be like, where are we in this ballpark? If they're making absolutely no hormones, or are they making a crazy amount of this one? It will give us a little bit of like an idea, like we've got to go this way or that way. But really what we need to do is we need to have a look at the breakdown, that whole process through the liver. How is it working? Is it working? Is it not working? Is it overworking? Is it underworking? Or is there something else? Is it coming from, you know, is this cortisol levels not too high, sorry. Is your DHEA, which is your precursor to all your hormones, not being produced? Yeah, that sort of thing. So I hope that has been helpful. This is just a quick overview, or as quick as I can do anyway, about general hormone dysfunction. Here on in, I'll start to do more videos on specific conditions, so keep an eye out for those as they come. So yeah, like, subscribe, and push that little bell notification, little icon, so you can get the notifications when I release a new video. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.